Well, today on TESTPLUG we have an interview with Dunn Bladeworks. Sam has been doing some really cool stuff for quite a few years now, and he's a new friend of mine from Ireland, from one Emerald City to the Emerald Coast. I also want to thank Jaden Rossnell for our intro and outro music. I'm really liking the way this is going, so listen to a little bit more while we see what Sam's been doing. Let's do one of these numbers. All right, awesome. Well, sir, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm doing good. How's the weather there in Ireland?
You know what? It's terrible. Been bad for a couple of days, but that's why this place is so green. So you can't have one without the other.
Well, I mean, realistically, I'm in Seattle. I don't know how different it is. It's, we've been in the lower climate. We got rain every other day. You might feel right at home here.
I've actually been to Seattle, and they were selling those T-shirts there with the 4 seasons, with the rain on each one of them. So
yeah,
I got the picture from that this place isn't too dissimilar to home.
It's pretty funny. There's some pretty good local whiskey distillers in this area, and they have a natural peat that they they farm out here. So they're making a real nice peaty, I would say Scotch, but it's not obviously, but it's a pretty good drink nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's getting a lot of that same. It gets the ocean air. It gets a lot of the same qualities that you guys get there in Ireland.
Yeah.
So I've been following you for a bit. I think the first time I was exposed to you was through Chris Jacobson. He was one of my earlier interviews.
Yeah.
And it was a contest, I think, for a knife. I did not win, by the way.
And you've resented it ever since.
I've resented it ever since, but it has shown me some of your beautiful work. So I've enjoyed watching some of that. Were you into art like as a kid growing up? Was it something that you've worked on your whole life?
I don't suppose art would be the word, although I do think it's quite artistic now, the knife making, but I wouldn't have been into art, I would never have taken it in school or anything like that, but I would have always been into working with my hands. So like woodwork and metalwork, and they were my favorite subjects in school, technical drawing and graphics, like so design, and I enjoyed that as well. So I suppose, ever since I was a young fella, I've always been brought up with tools and being creative, making things. So, the knife making, it sort of encompasses all of those skills, because there's woodwork and there's metalwork and there's design. And there's loads of new skills as well, like marketing and photography, and it's pretty expansive actually. But when it comes to it, so a little bit of everything in there.
Did you do construction there for work then for a while, or?
I did for a couple of years, and so I did a bit of construction and did a bit of welding as well for where we built our own house. So like, we'd be that kind of family as well, if a job needs doing, you're better off to learn how to do it than like try and just phone somebody. If you can actually make a hand of it yourself, a respectable hand of it, do it, So we'd be big into that.
How far into the city are you? How close are you to like your nearest city and stuff? Are you out a ways, or?
Our nearest city would be Cork City. We're right down the bottom of Ireland. If you can picture right down the bottom, and then as far over to the west as possible, next stop America. That's where we are. We're about an hour and 15 from Cork City. So we're a fair way out from the city. It's a proper rural terrain out here, rocky and green. It's nice.
Right. Is there a small city that you're closer, like have grocery stores and stuff that you're close enough to?
Yeah. So like we would have a village maybe about 2 miles away where you can get, bits and bobs that you need. But then the bigger shops would be about 20 minutes away, Bantry. Yeah. So not too far.
And does like the whole city now own your sets of knives to eat with? And
no, I actually have made almost no efforts to advertise my work locally at all. So I don't even know if anybody locally owns. Oh, a couple of people own very early ones that I gave away, you know, when I was cutting my teeth. But yeah, my knives are all over the world except for here. So it's the power of Instagram. You know, everything's through Instagram. You know, they're going.
Yeah.
You name the country, and they're probably not too far away from there. Like they're everywhere except here.
So what did it take to start? What did it take to start your first knife then? What was your first inspiration to I'm going to do knives?
Yeah, so like before this, I would have been doing like cleaning contracting.
Okay.
Fairly, you know, you don't have to concentrate or anything like that. It's very different to what I'm doing now. You just do your job and that's it. Whereas like when my work would run up to maybe about Christmas Eve, and then from Christmas Eve onwards would be like 3 weeks of doldrums, just nothing going on.
Right.
Everybody's off. Nobody's got any money, so nothing's getting done. And like, you know, you're stuck in the house, you're doing nothing, and it's just bad for you, you know. So like I'd had too many years of this, and I thought, right, this Christmas with all these weeks off, I'm going to do something new. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do something. So I saw this YouTube video, Walter Sorrells, I think it was, and he was making a knife from an old file, you know, from like a file.
Oh yeah.
So I thought, oh yeah, and I've got one of them. And I watched the video and I just thought, oh, I'll have a go with that. Like, you know, because I'm not in no rush.
Right.
So that was it. I made my first knife from that. And I kept track of the time just out of interest, just to see like how long will this thing take me. And I think it took 16 hours to make it.
Yeah, files aren't easy to grind down either.
No, but it was a really good exercise, and like, you know, I learned a lot from, and I gained massive satisfaction from achieving it at the end of it. And at the end of it, you know, I was delighted with what I'd made. I look back now and I think like, oh, but that's part of learning, isn't it?
There you go.
Yeah, organic growth. That's what they call it.
Do you still have that knife?
I do. Yeah. So I took it to a local knife maker after I finished it, and Rory Connor, his name is. He'd be Ireland's longest running knife maker. He trained in America with Bob Lovelace. He'd be a fairly well known knife maker in the world of knives. But I took it to him just to have him cast his eye over it, and he said, "Whatever you do, don't get rid of this. You keep this knife."
Yeah, it makes sense.
This is the starting point, and like even if you never make another one, don't get rid of it. So I thought, okay, and he showed me his first one from 40 years ago, and I thought, well, there's something to this, so I kept it. It's still in the shed. Yeah,
nice. Clean it up every once, oil it up every once in a while.
Yeah, and you know, I've actually used it a couple of times. At like, let's say like a milestone, like I remember I used it at 4 years. When I'd done 4 years, I took it out and I put it next to the knife I'd finished that week, you know, at the 4-year mark. And you can get good photographs for your social media to show contrast.
I have improved. Look.
Yeah, you can see it. At least you hope there's some serious contrast there. Anyway, I saw one fella do something similar, and I didn't know which was the new one. So
he was going for the artistic look. That's what it was.
Maybe.
It was, you know. So how many knives do you say that you produce? I'm trying to think of a good time span, like over a month's time. What is your normal production like?
So like, I suppose what my target would be, 2 or 3 a week. So maybe 10 to 12 a month.
Okay.
That would be my target. If I can make like 100 a year, that's keeping pace, you know. I'm happy with that. Yeah, I'm happy with that. But at the same time, like it's it's more productive, and the work is actually completed better if I do it in batches. So like, I might, one week I might start maybe 6 knives or 7 knives, and obviously that week I'm finishing none.
Right.
The next week might finish 1, and then the next week I might finish 6. So like,
oh wow,
it
kind of piles up.
Yeah, you work them sort of together, and that way,
Gotcha.
on average, it's 2 or 3.
Yeah,
And that's the plan. Yeah, I could speed it up if I wanted to make more, but I think like just a couple of months ago, I decided rather than like trying to pump out quantity and like keep up with demand that way, um, I'll up the quality and
okay,
and make less.
right.
And since I made that decision, obviously the quality improved when I made that decision, but my work went through the roof.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was very interesting because I was trying to keep pace with what was coming in, but then as soon as I thought like, no, I'm being rushed here by demand and it's not good enough. They can, like, with all due respect, they can wait. And my work just went kaboom.
Well,
it really did.
And that's it. Realistically, if you're paying, and a lot of your knives are from like 150 up, like there's not really much you do that's under that.
No.
If you're paying that much for a knife, you're waiting for it anyways. You're not just going to the local mall and buying, something out of the countertop.
Exactly. And I heard a podcast about 12 months ago, and the lad on it, he was really good at, business and marketing. He's a knife maker. And he said, people love to wait. They don't realize it yet, but they love to wait.
Yeah. The anticipation, of something coming it's very rewarding.
It's part of the purchase, and it's part of the whole, the whole drum up of enthusiasm for what they receive at the end of it. It is part and parcel of the whole business. So don't be afraid of making people wait. Like if they can't wait, they can go, and that's, it sounds real hard and fast, but it actually works. It's good.
It's funny. I don't know how familiar you are with like Kickstarter and some of those programs. There's stuff that you're not getting for another year out of there. Mm-hmm. But it's just that initial like spark of interest that really is what feeds that whole concept.
Yeah.
Sadly, sometimes you never get the item.
Yeah. I've never actually, I've heard of Kickstarter, and I've heard of a couple of successful Kickstarter campaigns that people have run. But I suppose there's always going to be a bit of collateral as well when people don't come up with the goods.
Yeah. I've only bought a couple of board games through it, and I guess a couple camping items, I think, but it's got some stuff. It's a thing.
Yeah.
How would you say your process has changed from the beginning? As far as, obviously, your first one was just literally filing metal off of a file, but what is your process now? Or how has it changed to now?
Well, you've hit the nail on the head, actually, because the name of the game is process. That's knife making for me. If when you boil it down, it's the sum of its parts in a lot of ways. It's let's say 30 steps from start to finish, and if you can actually dial those steps in, if you're a process driven person, if you think like that, and you enjoy process, then you've potentially got a future in knife making, because that's a big part of the game. How has it changed? Well, I suppose the biggest change to process for me would be improving my tooling.
Okay.
So when you've got limited tooling, your process is very limited, and your scope of work is going to be very limited. Whereas, like, as time goes by, you get, I bought a 2x72 belt grinder. Well, first I made one, then I bought one, and I've bought another one since. Instead of heat treating out of maybe like a forge, you heat treating out of an electric kiln, which is far more dialed in and allows you to do a better job, more variety. You
can control it easier.
Yeah, and then like as you go as well, your materials get better, your shapes get better, your edges get thinner. It's you're sort of building on every iteration. So,
so are you hammering out your own metal like blanks,
no,
or are you?
no. So
Okay.
yeah, there's sort of two schools of approach on
Right.
the knife. What you're talking about there is like the forging side of things, where people are drawing stuff out on anvils and using a forge and hammers, and then the route that I take, because the forging, as much as I admire it, and I absolutely do, like it's fascinating and stunning,
Right.
and it's like they can achieve something I can't achieve. A certain look I can't get, like. But the whole package just doesn't appeal to me. It's just it's another thing. But
well, and
yeah,
realistically, you're doing beautiful work without it, so it's not like it's a necessity. It's just a different style, kind of
exactly.
what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even like there yesterday, I shared I shared a page that I follow, a lad in England, Catch-A-Side Cutlery, and like his stuff, it's all forged. It's almost forged 2-dimensional. It's forged so thin, and he's a master. Like he's gifted.
Yeah.
But you couldn't get further from my style, and yeah, I think it's just brilliant. Whereas my style would be stock removal. So you're buying in stock steel at a set gauge. You're cutting out with an angle grinder, and you're going from there. With your grinding on the 2x72 and your heat treatments and all that side of things is the same, but you're just starting out with a sort of a pre-made sheet rather than
gotcha.
heating and beating.
But I mean, but even like the heat treating and all that stuff, like learning that and how to perfect that just to keep an edge that will actually stay sharp. All that stuff is still way above my head on any of that.
Yeah, it's incremental. It's the same, when you start off, you're sort of heat treating out of an open flame, and some lads stick with that, and some lads master heat treating out of a forge. There's no aspersion cast on that, like, but yeah, it's just time in the saddle, really.
So how long have you been doing this now?
I think I've been. My wife always says I stick a year onto everything. So like, we've been married 7 years. I say 8.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm 30. I say, I'm 31. I don't know. I have a feeling I've been doing it coming up to about 6 years, but it's probably 5.
Okay, gotcha. So we'll say 5.5 years. Have the availability of materials or the type of materials that are available changed quite a bit over that time?
Yeah, it has actually, because when I started out, in America, you lads can get a vast array of materials and like good prices, and it seems like we look over from this side of the pond and we think like, oh, I'd love to live in America for all that. But when I first started, there's a company there in England called Ground Flat Stock. Their range was a lot more limited than it is now. So like materials were sort of hard come by, whereas nowadays, the last 3 years anyway, they've really upped their game with stock and materials, and it's almost a one-stop shop now. It's great. You can get so much from them. Yeah, it's perfect.
What's the turnaround time on getting the stuff in then?
Oh, very fast.
Like from them?
Yeah, even together with a shipment from England to Ireland, it's still like 2 days. It's great. Really good.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
Yeah. And like you never really want to get yourself in a position where you have to stop work because you haven't got stuff in. So like you're apparently trying to stay a little bit ahead of the game with.
Well, that's construction mentality too. That's
Yeah.
Can't build a house if you don't have nails.
That first lockdown there, when everything stopped, I had a ton of stuff in, so I was busy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Has that affected anything otherwise for you as far as obviously life, eating at restaurants and stuff like that? We know that's, a different thing, but well, actually in your area, how is it there? Is the city pretty locked down or?
The Irish people, it's okay to generalize this way because it's positive.
Yeah.
The Irish people are very, very respectful people. Very respectful.
Okay.
And like, there's no, if the law is laid out, this is what we're going to be doing, they will adhere to it, like, and gladly so, you know. So at the moment, we've got a 5 kilometer, I suppose, a 3 mile radius that we're allowed to travel in. You're allowed to travel further than that to go to the shop and stuff, you know. But within reason, they want you to try and stay quite local, and people are happy enough to do it, you know, which is good. So there's no sort of big kickoff or anything, or protests, or you know, any dissension.
Not like other countries. we won't get too much into that. That's,
I can't think of who you're talking about.
No, it's interesting to see what other people have gone through with this, because like we're looking now to go back into the numbers have risen up so much again that we're looking like we're gonna have to lock things back up again.
Yeah.
I actually turned down a job this last week because I have an 87-year-old father in the house that, you know, I can't, he's not in bad health.
No,
I can't really risk.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. So I'm still doing podcasts for a while, I guess.
Good. Do you know, it's good to have something as well to keep your mind occupied and to keep engaged.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
and I've been able to meet some really cool people through this too. So it's been really nice.
Yeah.
What means do you use other than Instagram, as far as, do you use anything else for advertising, or?
I don't. No. I suppose there's a little bit of like organic advertising between chefs, because you know, when a chef goes to a job, like, it's almost things of the past now, because there's not many chefs working, but when they get to work, they lay out their knife roll.
Right.
You know, hopefully if your work stands out, chefs talk.
Nice.
And I get a lot of business like that, you know, people seeing knives that belong to other chefs and then making inquiries from that. But the vast majority of it is Instagram, to be honest. It's just such a decent platform to run business through. It's great.
Well, it's funny too, because like a knife, you know, in some aspects could be just considered a rudimentary or a crude tool, but when you have beauty added to it, it just turns into this thing of mystique. And I don't know if it is a dual gender thing, but I know for most men, like a good looking knife is typically something that they lust towards.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I'm sure in the chef community too, that's got to be
it's a big thing in the chef community, because, like, you know, you think about yourself, if let's say you're a carpenter, you know, and you've got a rusty saw and a hammer and a box of rusty nails, versus, you know, a Pazload gun, you know, a nice skill saw, a proper dual chop saw. The job's going to be incomparable. It's going to be absolutely awful one way, and it's going to be, you know, quite nice the other way. And it really is that way with a chef. If he's got something in his hand like that for sometimes an 8-hour shift, you want to be enjoying what you're doing, and it wants to be doing the job nicely and cleanly, something you can enthuse about, versus something that's thick and like blunt, and the handle's all wrong, and it's just miserable.
So what time do you take, or what time do you put into actually designing like your next edition or your next blade?
Yeah, it's very I suppose it wouldn't be very often that I sit down to a piece of paper and I design something brand new. Quite often it would be, you know, it would have evolved from something I've been making, just a slight change to it, you know. It just seems to go that way. Like, even I was looking through my work there for the next 18 months, I suppose, yesterday. And I decided, like, I'm going to try and pare down my designs a little bit, because, you know, you can sort of pander to everybody's wants, and you can do it that way, or you can try and funnel people a small bit more and actually work on. I picked 6 designs yesterday, and I thought I'm going to try and push people a small bit towards sticking to these 6 designs, because I can actually focus on each of these designs better rather than, you know, okay, let's talk about what you want. Yeah, and it's just a bit broad. So yeah, just very incremental changes to previous designs is the way I generally work it. Yeah.
Nice. I know I've been over to in Tokyo, I've been to the restaurant like strip where they have like all the knife stores and stuff like that. And you do see a lot of that where um it'll be a, $2,000, $3,000 knife, but they only have like 3 styles of that
Yeah.
maker's stuff. I think, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
they specialize in. And this person's known for this.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Have you
like,
done any? Oh,
sorry, go on.
I was going to say, have you done any like visiting other countries as far as now that you're in this knife making world to see what how other countries do it? Or
I haven't, to be honest. I've visited a number of knife makers around the country.
Gotcha.
Just called in, whenever I was on holiday and I was within, let's say, 20 miles, I'd look them up and say, because like it's a small community anyway, so you'd sort of know each other through the community. Just look them up and call in and actually set eyes on what it's actually like in their little shop.
Gotcha.
That's been quite eye opening. Actually, it's been quite nice to sort of not just put a face to the name, but to actually see what the story is and see different people's approaches, and invariably you'll have your eyes open to something anyway.
Yeah, learn a little something of how to make the process easier.
Yeah, or even just different, something where you think like, oh yeah, I don't do that. His way is not particularly better than mine, and mine isn't than his. But I've never thought about that, and you always learn something. Yeah.
What is your favorite material to work with then? As far as, I mean, obviously steel, but is there a type of steel or a?
No, it's a good question because steels would fall into the 2 main brackets that people would know would be like carbon steel, and then stainless steel.
Right.
So when we go to the shops now, we're met with stainless steel all the time, aren't we? Because it doesn't rust easily and blah blah blah. But like at the same time, carbon steel's sort of been done away with. People have moved away from carbon steel because there was a degree of upkeep with it. And yet carbon steel is the one that I really love. And I always have loved it. Like growing up, we had a carbon steel knife in the house. And as much as it might have looked like, with heavy patina and stuff, it was always sharp, and it was easy kept sharp. So like, that always stuck with me, and then when I started knife making, everybody generally starts making with carbon steel. And I just haven't stopped because and the array of carbon steels is quite broad as well, and you can get some really tasty ones. And I'm working with one at the moment that I really love. It's very, very high carbon, takes a really nice clean edge, nice and thin, and you can also what's called differentially heat treated, so you can get hamons, they're called, on the blade, which is a Japanese technique, which is something that's one thing that really caught my attention early on.
Is that where they do like the mud or the clay stuff on it and then heat it again with that?
Yeah,
that's pretty cool stuff.
So yeah, that caught me early on, where I thought I want to try and do that. And then once you try one, I just got the bug. This steel that I'm using is quite sort of conducive to getting hamons. It's great. So
nice.
Yeah, and it's something that you can again, hone your process. So I like
that. You're not making samurai swords, but at the same time you're making.
Well, you are. You're actually employing the same sort of techniques as the lads who are
right.
Because people say what is it, purely aesthetic or what? But a hamon, a softer spine compared to the hard edge, it actually does add some shock resistance to a knife. So it's not. It's not completely just aesthetic. It is actually beneficial to the use of the knife. So,
what's the biggest knife you've made?
I don't generally go mad. I've made 9-inch chef knives, so like 9 inches the blade, and then maybe a 5-inch handle. So there wouldn't be massive knives. I've been asked to make all sorts of stuff, but I think I view everything that I make as sort of an extension of what I'm trying to build. If that doesn't sound too arty.
No.
Everything I make, I want to be looked at and people say like, yeah, that's made by Sam Dunn, rather than like making weird and wonderful things and losing your sense of identity, if that makes sense.
You're not making movie like artistic, swirl blades and all that nonsense.
No. But I think every knife maker in the world is asked to make those sort of wacky things as well. You look like a French curves.
Yeah. No, I actually really like your stuff because it is very clean. Even the way the handles have like, there's obviously ridges for holding it better, but they're clean, like angular, almost looking stuff, and I've always really appreciated that.
Yeah.
For handle material, what's the weirdest handle material you've used? Have you done like some bone stuff and some?
I haven't. I'm ordering some ram horn at the moment because I want to try one with ram horn. But most of it is, either like stabilized wood. So wood that's been either just stabilized where it has resin sucked into it and it's baked and it sort of fills all those air pockets and air tubes with resin and it's rock solid, or dyed stabilized wood where it has dye sucked in first and then it's stabilized, or more composite based things like Tufnol and micarta and carbon fiber, and there's all sorts of fancy materials out there. I haven't experimented as much as maybe I should have done with the more natural things like horn and bone, but I have got plans. It's just getting there. I want to try one with camel bone. Bone, it makes a lovely handle. I've seen it a couple of times, and every time I've seen it, I've thought that looks tasty. So I'll get some camel bone in the end. I think it's like the shin bone or something, and it looks really nice.
Well, it's a big enough animal that's got to be a pretty solid chunk of something there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it has to be to hold that up.
Yeah. So, other than bones, what other projects do you got coming up? What do you? I saw one of your latest posts was it almost looked like a herringbone of knives laid out. Was that for a project or was that just a?
So like another thing that I've found over the last couple of years is with Christmas orders, things get very sentimental and people get really sentimental about the order, so like, can I have this and can I have that and can you put this inscription on it and on this side can you put that and on that side. So this year I thought, right, I don't really fancy taking all these sentimental orders so much, and it's not bite the hand that feeds the mouth. I'm not doing that, but if I can sort of take a limited number of those sentimental ones, and then I'll do a batch in November, and if people want to buy them as stocking fillers, they can. I'll keep them reasonably priced, and that'll be me for my Christmas work. So I thought, right, I'll do that, and that's what I did. I made a batch, and they got snapped up fairly quickly, which is good. And I still have a couple of Christmas orders to do, but I'm not stuck with 20 Christmas orders, which each one you have to do loads of communicating and loads of drawing, and it just gets out of hand very quickly,
Yeah.
So I just tried to whittle it down a little bit, and I can spend more time in the workshop and less time on the phone. That's
makes sense.
So
you started off doing this on your holiday after Christmas. Your time. Are you still stuck doing knives during that time now? That time off, or do you actually get some time off?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. They say do something that you love, and you'll never work a day in your life. And and I love the knife making. I love it. So like, yeah, this Christmas when everything's come to a standstill, I will still be in the workshop. I've got a couple of things planned for next year, which I haven't.
Big swirly knives. We got it. Okay, we're looking forward
to
that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Big swirly knives for next year. They're going all apocalypse knives next year. But yeah, no, I have a couple of things I want to work on. I have a couple of designs drawn up that I've been meaning to try for a little while, but haven't got the chance. So this Christmas and January, I'll be working on new stuff.
Nice. Yeah. Looking forward to that. Well, any questions for my direction? Anything I can send you from the States? I got an Amazon on call here in Seattle.
Yeah, I don't even know. Like, how much is it to ship from America? I was talking to a fella yesterday, and he seemed to think that the shipping rates from America were quite good elsewhere.
Oh, you mean like from here to Ireland? Yeah, I haven't. I guess I could ask Neil. I have a really good friend from Dublin. He lives in Montana actually now.
Oh, I know who that is. That's Neil McShay.
Yeah,
I know Neil. Yeah. He was over in County Clare, I think. That's where he grew up, which is I suppose 3 counties up from me.
Okay.
So again, West Coast, nice. But yeah, lovely.
Yeah,
I don't
know. Boy.
Have you ever seen Father Ted? that
so
kind of country.
Yeah, that's my only Ireland connection on this side of things. But who knows when this nonsense is over? Maybe I'll head over to the green on your side.
Yeah, well, you're always welcome if you're ever this side of the pond. Look us up.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this has been a lot of fun, man. I'm looking forward to seeing some of your new stuff, and who knows? Maybe I'll save a couple bucks here and there, and even buy something soon.
Yeah. And thanks very much for having me on as well. I appreciate it, and I respect what you're doing with this. What do you call it? Do you call it a podcast, or do you call it?
It's a podcast, yeah.
Yeah,
it's a video cast. I don't know. It's
yeah, because it's
YouTube nonsense.
I think it's interesting because, like, you know, I find myself listening to a lot of podcasts, and one of the ones I like the most is Joe Rogan, obviously, because everybody likes Joe Rogan. But it's because of the video.
Yeah.
I quite often, if he's got someone engaging on, you know, I'll quite often turn on the phone screen and actually watch the interview, albeit like in a distracted fashion, just because it does make a difference. It is an extra sense, isn't it?
Well, you can see the interaction between the people.
Yeah.
You can, No, I really think that this is, it's a growing thing over on the States, especially. A lot of actors now do it, and a lot of comedians do it.
Yeah.
Which I am neither of those, but I do have a lot of people that I enjoy talking to as far as artists and people that have always amazed me with their abilities and their skills. So that's really what I'm trying to entertain, is just that personal amazement or that personal enjoyment I have from those crafters or those makers, to inspire me a little bit, but also let the rest of the world, you know, see what I've seen in them and their work. So
yeah,
that's what we're trying to do here.
Absolutely. You're doing a nice job.
Yeah, thank you. Well, that being that, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'm going to go to bed.
Sounds good.
Thanks for watching TESTPLUG.
Thank you. All right, Jeremy.